Hello everyone, welcome to this video discussion. The topic that I will be discussing in this video is the characteristics of a global teacher. So in this video discussion, we shall be talking about what characteristics does a global teacher possess. So before we proceed to the discussion proper, let us have first the definition of the following terminologies. First one is global society. Global society is the idea that people are completely integrated with each other. It's not that we don't have differences, it's that we all rely on the same community networks. When we talk about global society, we are talking about the ties that people have. Another term that we should understand is cultural significance. Cultural significance means aesthetic, historic, scientific, social, or spiritual value for past, present, or future generations. Cultural significance is embodied in the place itself, its fabric, setting, use, associations, meanings, records, related places, and related objects. Places may have a range of values for different individuals or certain groups of people. Now, cultural significance is very important to be understood because as a global teacher, you need to have cultural sensitivity, most especially to when it comes to the diversity of students inside the classroom setting. Another thing that you need to understand is world-mindedness. It is a worldview in which one sees oneself connected to the world community and feels a sense of responsibility for its members. Since this video discussion will focus on the characteristics of a global teacher, let us now have an enumeration of these characteristics that a global teacher must possess. A global teacher must think and act locally and globally. When you say locally and globally, that means a global teacher must know how to contextualize his or her teaching setup. That means that teacher must be able to fully understand also the local phenomenon so that whatever needs to be taught to the students must be contextualized not only in a global perspective but also in the local perspective. A global teacher has classroom management skills. That means a global teacher must know how to manage the class very well by making sure that certain procedures or measures are implemented inside the classroom setting. Third one is that a global teacher makes content relevant and updated. A teacher may always teach contents or concepts to the students, but not at all times that a teacher can actually give relevant and timely content. So it's very important that as a global teacher, you know how to contextualize the content based on what is relevant and what is updated. A global teacher must also possess skills in critical thinking. It's not enough that you understand things simply. You need to become a critical thinker so that you will have a deeper analysis on things that you must also share to your students. A global teacher must also use technology in education. That's why we have the concept of educational technology. A global teacher must be well versed with the use of technology. Given the situation, it's also an advantage if a teacher knows how to use technology in education. A global teacher must also possess a deep understanding of multiculturalism and globalization. Given the diversity or homogeneity in a classroom setting, it's very important that a global teacher knows how to address multiculturalism in a classroom, most especially when it comes to diversity of ideas and opinions. Globalization is also another concept that a global teacher must understand. A global teacher has skills to collaborate with teams. Teamwork is also essential for a global teacher. If a global teacher wants to succeed or progress in his or her career, then he or she must know how to collaborate well with people in the workplace. A global teacher must also bring the world into the classroom, school, and community. It is not enough that a global teacher simply feeds students with concepts coming from books. Contextualization based on what is actually happening in the world is also vital. And lastly, a global teacher must continuously grow professionally. So that means a global teacher must continually seek for opportunities where he or she can expand his or her academic horizon, making sure that knowledge is being widened or deepened. Now, let's talk about the education and teaching in the era of globalization. Education today is clearly a global profession. More and more teachers are becoming economically mobile and spending time teaching in another country is a feature of numerous international educational initiatives. Now, there is evidence to suggest that these experiences can help to broaden teachers' horizons develop their skills, as well as improving the overall quality of teaching in the country they are in. Now, in recognition of the globalized nature of today's societies, international initiatives on teacher skills have tended to follow the 21st century. So the global teacher skills models outlined earlier, with particular emphasis on ICT competencies, according to UNESCO in 2017. This is the reason why teachers nowadays need to possess ICT competencies so that they will also be well versed with the use of technology in the educational landscape. In addition, there are also many examples of the promotion of what is seen as good teaching that mention many of the broader 21st century and software skills outlined earlier. For example, enjoy communicating your understanding to others. So that means having a healthy discussion or intellectual discourse with other people. Having confidence is also one of the software skills that learners and teachers alike need to possess. Having great organizational skills, working effectively in groups, collaborating or cooperating well, and conflict management is also one. And then motivating students to do their best. And lastly is empathizing with the students. This one is according to skills you need in 2018. Now, these skills must be possessed by the teacher in order for a teacher to become a global teacher. Steiner in 1996, in her seminal work on the global teacher, saw this as meaning a teacher who, global teacher, is someone who is interested and concerned about events and movements in the local, national, and global landscape. That means if you're a global teacher, you do not contain your mind in what is happening in the local setting only. You also introduce concepts or phenomena happening in a wider scale. Okay, for example, a global perspective or international perspective, and you introduce it to students so that students will also have a deeper understanding of the different things happening around in the society. Second one, a global teacher actively seeks to keep informed while also maintaining a skeptical stance towards the sources of information. That means a global teacher must be critical enough in analyzing whether or not the information, the source of information is verifiable or reputable. Third one is that a global teacher takes up a principled stand and supports others who do so against injustice and inequalities. So when you are a global teacher, you are really expected to stand on what you think is right, on what you think is just, and what you think is equal to people in the society. A global teacher also informs themselves about environmental issues as they impact upon their own and other communities. That is why, if you're a global teacher, you also remind your students about the environmental repercussions brought about by certain human actions that are very detrimental to the nature. And lastly, a global teacher values democratic processes as the best means for bringing about positive change and engages in some form of social action to support their beliefs. While it is true that there are many educational philosophies available at hand, a global teacher must always be reminded that democracy will always be the best platform so that everyone will be given the chance to express themselves freely. Through this, everyone gets a chance or the opportunity to vent their emotions, express their ideas in the most effective way. A more recent approach to what could be seen as the globally minded teacher appears in Kogan and Grossman in 2009. They state that such a teacher should possess the following. First one is the ability to work with others in a cooperative way and to take responsibility for his or her own roles and duties with society. This means having the sense of responsibility and accountability. Also, as what I mentioned a while ago, teamwork is also one important thing that a global teacher must always observe, most especially when working in a team. Second one is that a global teacher must have the ability to understand, accept, and tolerate cultural differences. In our world nowadays, we are totally bounded by our own opinions, by our own subjectivities, to the point that we are already causing chaos not only in the personal world, not only in the actual or physical world, but also in the virtual world. Because of this, global teachers must have this tolerance of cultural differences. And if that global teacher has this tolerance of cultural differences, then it will be easier for the teacher also to educate students when it comes to cultural differences and respecting these differences. Another thing is that a global teacher must have willingness to resolve conflict in a non-violent manner. If you're a global teacher, you know how to deal with issues professionally. Okay? He or she must also have the capacity to think in critical and systematic ways. As a global teacher, you are not bounded to become a mediocre individual. You also need to have a command of problem solving knowledge that can be implemented in everyday life. Also, you need to have willingness to change your lifestyle and consumption habits to protect the environment. That's a global teacher. So you need to also adapt to the trends, environmental trends that really interjects on environmental preservation. And then you must also have the ability to look at and approach problems and issues as a member of the global society. And that is where respect comes in and your tolerance of other people's opinion or beliefs. If you're a global teacher, then you need to possess the so-called global competence. Global competence is further defined as being multifaceted and including cognitive development, social emotional skills, and civic learning with the following key requirements. First one, investigate the world beyond the immediate environment by examining issues of local, global, and cultural significance. That is why when you examine issues, you do not examine it in a shallow way. You do not only see what is obvious, you also need to investigate further so that you will really have a full understanding of what's happening around us. For example, the problem existing in the local community could also be a problem existing across the country or across the globe. And so, understanding it in the local community setting only will not give you a deeper understanding of what's really the social phenomenon. So, it's good that as a global teacher, you explore more opportunities for you to learn more about these things, not containing your mind only in one aspect, which is local, but expanding your horizons to much wider opportunities or venues such as international or global setting. It's also important that you recognize, understand, and appreciate the perspectives and worldviews of others. As what I mentioned, given the differences that we have right now, it's very important that we know how to respect as global teachers. We know how to respect the opinions of other people. And lastly, a global teacher possessing global competence needs to take action for collective well-being and sustainable development both locally and globally. This could have many ways or means, but you need to be careful as well as a global teacher to make sure that you are also respecting the beliefs or the actions of other people. There have also been numerous initiatives to equip teachers to develop a global outlook and the skills to teach about the wider world. For example, we have courses within the initial training of teachers that promote a sense of global awareness and world-mindedness. That's true. There are a number of courses that focus on this one. We also have professional development programs for teachers, which often run in partnership with non-government organizations. Now, these professional development programs equip teachers with the skills that we will be needing in educating our 21st century learners. There are also initiatives that are related to specific awards and forms of certification. There are skills development related to some form of international experience, for example, exchange programs, so that the faculty could really have wider global competence and understanding of cultural differences. And study visits and exchange programs or other volunteer experiences could also be great venues for the faculty or teacher to become global educators. Now, the inclusion of global skills within the initial training of teachers can be seen in the following areas. For example, training on purpose and role of teaching and its wider social purpose. Second is content within specific training for subject-based teachers, particularly geography, sciences, citizenship, or civics or social studies, religious education. Because not only in these courses that behavior is taught, good behavior is taught, but also a wider sense or wider understanding of different issues, may them be local or international or global. We have specialist modules and courses, usually of an optional nature. And then we also have courses that, while not explicitly aimed at training of teachers, are aimed at existing or prospective teachers, such as undergraduate education degree courses and master's level programs. So professional education and further professional education can really equip our global teachers the skills that they will be needing for them to be culturally sensitive about these certain issues. And then we also have short sessions introducing trainees to these concepts. Now, if you want to become a global teacher, it is very, very important that you have or that you possess cultural sensitivity. From the word itself, global competence, you need to have a wider understanding of different issues. So if you're going to teach your students, you teach your students not in a way that you will see only what is locally happening. Your students need to see also what is happening in the bigger world, in a bigger perspective and a bigger scale. Let's say the issue happening in the Philippines might also be an issue happening somewhere across the globe. So it's very important that you introduce them concepts which could really help them understand also the things that are going around. Okay. So as a global teacher, you always need to equip yourselves with the soft skills and other specialized skills or competencies that you must possess, such as this one. You have to continually grow professionally if you really want to improve your learning, if you want to improve or deepen your knowledge, and if you want to have a wider understanding of the things happening around you. So that is a global teacher. Now the question is, are you ready to become a global teacher? So if you have questions or insights about this video discussion, can you post them in the open forum? Thank you.